All right, so as we get into lesson 5 review, then our review for lesson 5 is all about percentages, changing fractions into decimals, decimals into fractions, changing both of those into percentages, changing percentages back into decimals and fractions. And then we'll get into how I can find a percentage of a number or how I can use a percentage in a problem. So I start out just understanding my basics. What is a percentage? And as we have said, the percentage is always in a comparison out of 100. If I ate 4 pieces out of the pizza, what percentage did I eat of 100 of the pizza? So I have to look at, if I have a pizza, I eat 100% of a pizza. If I only ate part of it, then what percentage of it did I eat? I'm always comparing out of 100. The example they give you here, there are 54 boxes filled in. So I have 54 out of 100 pieces, which would be 54%. And that's where our lesson begins, is being able to take a percent and show it as a ratio, or also known as a fraction. So when I have 19%, I'm always out of 100, and these are 100 blocks, all of them. So I just have to fill in 19 of those, which would be one line with most of a second one. It could go up and down, and then almost a second one up and down. You could count and space it out and make sure you fill in 19 and do a fancy design if you want to. I personally like to do my math as quickly as I can, so I just want to cross one whole one, which is 10, and then 9. When it comes to my ratio, it looks like a fraction. I'm going to reduce it also if I possibly can. I put 19 out of what? It's always out of 100 because it's a percentage, and I know a percentage is always comparing to 100. I can't reduce 19 100s. 19 is a prime number. It does not go into 100 evenly. Moving on to question 2. And question 2 tells me I'm using 80%. So I fill in 8 of those blocks. Once again, I can go up and down 8 different ones as long as I leave 2 lines at one end or another. Doesn't matter where you put them, as long as there are 20 empty boxes there on my grid. Once I do that, then I simply put the 80 over 100. I'm going to drop the percent sign, the number that's given for my percentage, it goes over 100. Then I see if I can reduce. I can reduce by both of those zeros, which would give me 8 over 10. That's the first easiest step. But when I look at it also, my greatest common factor between the two, which we talked about in our first group of review lessons, would be 20. If I reduce by 20, then I would see that I actually get 4/5. So my ratio would be reduced down to 4/5. On 3, it says 66%. So guess how many boxes have to be filled in? 66 boxes. Now, I know I'm going faster than you could probably color those in. Either pause it or just box in 66, where 66 would be, like the outline of this, and put an X on it. So you know that those are taken out. I'm fine with that as well. If you want to be very delicate about your coloring and do designs and things like that, then take your time, just pause the video and move on. Once I show what my 66% will look like in my grid, I'm going to take my numerator and put it over 100 and then see if I can reduce. Both evens. So law of divisibility, if they're both even, 2 will go into both of them. Well, 2 goes into 66 33 times, and 2 goes into 100 50 times. They're not both even. 3 will go into 33, but not into 50. 5 would go into 50. 10 will go into 50, but neither goes into 33. And indeed, when it comes down to it, the only factors are 1, 3, 11, 33, none of which go into 50. 33, 50 is the lowest that I can go. My 3%, quick and easy. Fill in 3 of them. Once I have that done, then I take my 3 and I put it over 100. 3 is a prime number, but 3 will not go into 100 even number of times because 1 plus 0 plus 0 is 1. 3 doesn't go into 1 evenly, so that is as low as my fraction will go. 31, I have to color in 31 of them, so 3 complete rows with 1 extra. Or you can do a fancy design. Just pause the video so you can stay caught up. Take the whole number, 31, put it over 100, Seems really redundant. We should be fine with this lesson. But 31 over 100, 31 over 100 cannot be reduced. That is my fraction for my percentage. 25%, I have to fill in 25 of them. I can do 2 lines going up and a half a line. I can spread them out. It's up to you how you want to decide it. I take my number of 25 and I put it over 100. Once I do that though, hopefully I look at it and I'm thinking money because I have quarters and I have a dollar bill. And I know that there are 4 quarters for every dollar. I know that can be reduced by 25s. Or if you reduce it by 5s, then you just have to reduce it by 5 again. But I would get 1/4 as my reduced fraction. That part should be pretty easy. The next part should not be difficult because we've done it several times, but as it is called, it is a review. So how do I go from a percentage into a decimal and a fraction? So I have 2 answers that I have to have here. So when I do my fractions and decimals, I find it easier to go to my decimal first. I'm going to cross out my percent sign, move my decimal from right to left 2 times, only 2 times, and always 2 times. So when I drop my percent sign and I move it from right to left 2 times, what do I get? I get 0.75. The reason I like to start with my decimal is because if I can call these by their proper name, making that fraction is a lot easier. This is not 0.75 mathematically. This is 75 hundredths. And if I can call it 75 hundredths, that makes my fraction a lot easier to write down because I say exactly what I'm going to write down. 75 over 100. Then I see if I can reduce. Just like on the previous one with money, I know quarters going to 75 cents, quarters going to $1. If I reduce by 25 on each of those, there are 3 quarters and 75 cents and 4 quarters and $1. So my reduced fraction is 3/4. Same thing on number 2. If I have a percent sign, I want to drop it. I'm going to move my decimal from right to left 2 times. Then I write down the decimal. It is 44 hundredths. If I have 44 hundredths as a decimal, to write it as a fraction, I write exactly what I'm saying. I write 44 over 100. When I have 44 over 100, I see if I can reduce. Well, it's even numbers, so I know 2 will go into both of them. But when I look at it, 4 will go into both of them, and I know 4 goes into 100 evenly because there's a coin that we have 4 even ones in $1. So if I reduce by 4, 4 goes into 44 11 times, and 4 goes into 125 times. If I want to reduce by 2, I would get 22 over 50, which are 2 even numbers. I'd have to reduce by 2 again and still get my 11/25. My final answers are 44 hundredths and 11/25. What about this one? This is bigger than 100%. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change how we do our math. We still do it the same way. I drop my percent sign. I move it from right to left 2 times. Remember? Always 2 times and never more than 2 times. I'm going to have 1 and 28 hundredths. How do I write that as a mixed number? I write exactly to begin with what I'm saying. 1 and 28 hundredths looks like 1 and 28 hundredths. And then I reduce my fraction. Well, what goes into 28 and 100 evenly? Well, the only factors that I have of 20 and 100 would be 2. I'd also have 4, and then 7 and 14. The largest number, my greatest common factor of those, would be 4. I could reduce by 2, then I'd have to reduce by 2 again. So if I reduce by 4, then I know 4 goes into 28 7 times, and once again, there are 4 quarters in every dollar, so it goes in 25 times. So my final answers are 1 and 28 hundredths, which is the same as, in a mixed fraction form, 1 and 7/25. My final one then is 5%. That one only has 1 position though. I have to move it 2 times. What do? I still do the same process. Drop my percent sign, move my decimal from right to left 2 times. And when I run out of decimal spaces, I simply add a 0 so I can move it again. That gives me 0.05, which is also said as 5 hundredths. How do I write that as a fraction? Well, I write exactly what I'm saying. 5 over 100, and then I reduce. I know 5 will go into both of them because they both end with 5 and 0. 5 goes into 5 one time, 5 goes into 100 20 times, so it's 1/20. Pretty easy so far. Well, what if we go on to the next step? Writing fractions and decimals as percents. Well, all I'm going to do is do the reversal. If it's a decimal, I just reverse the process. If it's a fraction, then I have to get the decimal first. Well, when it's a decimal already, I had gone from my percent, dropping the percent sign, moving my decimal from right to left 2 times to get my decimal. Now I'm going to do the reverse. I'm going to move it from left to right 2 times and add my percent sign. Easy enough. So I move it 2 times, add my percent sign, and what do I get? I get 45. 45 what? I have to do the second step. Has to have a label of percent. But what about the fraction? So I could get a denominator of 100 and then take the numerator. So I would multiply the 5 by 20 to get 100 and multiply the 2 by 20 and get 40. So I know it'd be 40%. Or the easiest way, in my opinion, is to remember that this is division. And if I take my numerator and divide it by my denominator, and I add 2 decimal points. Now, here's the difference. I can't have a mixed number at the end of my decimal. I can't have a remainder. So I have to continue to divide until I don't have anything left over. Well, this one's easy enough. I have 2 decimal positions. I know I have to move my decimal 2 times. So I know I have to at least have 2 decimal positions. I don't know why I held up 4 fingers. So 5 goes into 20 and 5 goes into 0. So I'm going to have 0.40. Now I'm not leaving it as a decimal, so I'm going to leave that 0 there so I can move it from left to right 2 times. And when I move from left to right 2 times, just like here, then I add my percent sign. Well, what about this big fancy decimal point of 2.34, 2 and 34 hundredths? Still the same thing. Move my decimal from left to right 2 times, add a percent sign. What I have 234, my percent being added, I have 234%. Now the division, remember what I said about if I have a remainder, I continue on with my zeros until I don't have a remainder, because I have 7 8. So when I divide 7 by 8, I'm actually going to have to go out 3 decimal positions. When I do that, then I get a whole decimal number. I get 875 thousandths. So here's the only difference. If I move my decimal 2 times, always 2 times, no more than 2 times, then I know I'm going to have a decimal in my percent. Is that possible? It's absolutely possible. So I'm just going to, once I get my 875 thousandths, I want to move it from left to right 2 times, and wherever my decimal lands, which is right between the 7 and 5, I keep it there. So I write my decimal at 87.5, and I add my percent sign. Lesson is not designed to be difficult. It should be pretty easy in review. If I went too fast, it is less than 15 minutes, then please pause and rewatch it. Some of you are like, I'm not going to waste my time rewatching it. But if you're not paying attention, if you're not getting what I'm saying, if your brain is not mentally engaged, you can see it, your hand can copy it down, and you can think about lunch, you can think about softball, baseball, video games, and everything else. You got to know what I'm talking about in order to understand it. Then you'll be successful on your homework assignment. If you have any questions, though, you truly don't get it, get back to me and we have extra practice problems that we can do.